Hi, I'm John McAuliffe, Chief Marketing Officer of VFM Leonardo, and welcome to the VTV channel. VTV has been produced for hotel e-commerce, marketing, and sales professionals to provide insights, knowledge, and learnings from industry experts on how to extract more value from a hotel's presence on the internet. Each week, I interview an industry expert on a single topic. We encourage you to email us at vtv@vfmleonardo.com and suggest topics that you would like us to cover in future episodes. Today I'm joined by Dr. Chris Anderson, Assistant Professor at the Cornell School of Hotel Administration. Chris's main research focus is on revenue management and service pricing. He has worked with a variety of hotels, airlines, rental car and tour companies, as well as numerous consumer packaged goods and financial services firms in the application and development of revenue management. Dr. Anderson's research has been funded by numerous governmental agencies and industry partners. And he serves on the editorial board of the Journal of Revenue and Pricing Management and is the regional editor for the International Journal of Revenue Management. Chris, thank you for joining us on VTV again, and welcome.
All right, thanks, John. It's my pleasure.
Our topic today, the role of opaque sites in the travel planning process. You've done a fair amount of research and work in the setting of prices on opaque sites. And I think our audience would be interested in learning and understanding how they could better use opaque sites in their e-business efforts. So let's start off with, can you give us an understanding of opaque sites and what role they play in the travel planning process?
Okay, sure, John. So basically, an opaque travel site, the two most common examples being Hotwire's posted price opaque mechanism or Priceline's name your own price bidding mechanism, are both online travel agents where part of the service experience is disguised until after, basically post-confirmation, right? And so basically, as the consumer, you are electing to, acquire a one-night stay in a 4-star hotel in Times Square in New York City, and you're indifferent to what 4-star property that might be, right? And so it's a product that really is attractive to sort of value-seeking non-brand loyal consumers, right? So, basically I'm not all that loyal to sort of Marriott or Hilton, but basically I'm interested in a level of experience, right? So it's a 4-star or 4.5-star. And so I visit one of these opaque travel sites, I acquire service at a substantive discount. So Priceline, you're basically looking at roughly a 50% discount to retail rates. In Hotwire, somewhere around 35 or 40% discount typically to those retail rates. And so as the consumer, I'm getting a great deal. What comes with that deal is some uncertainty about who my actual service provider is. But especially in the US, we're pretty consistent about quality across the different star levels. And it's in these opaque OTAs' best interest to also maintain that sort of quality across those 4 stars. So they do a very rigorous job of monitoring who's a 4-star, who's a 3-star, and so on. And so as far as the hotelier goes, it's a natural form of segmentation, right? Historically, in revenue management, we have tried to segment customers through artificial restrictions, or like a 21-day advance purchase, or the classic airline one is a Saturday night stay, that if you're willing to stay Saturday night, therefore you must be a leisure traveler. If you're not willing to stay Saturday night, you must be a business traveler looking to get home to your family. So we've put on these artificial restrictions that allow us to have variable prices in an effort to segment customers into the extreme being business versus leisure. Whereas these opaques naturally segment customers into this, basic value-seeking brand switcher, and allows you to price into that segment while maintaining higher prices at your regular, we'll call them retail outlets. So it allows you to have multiple prices in the market at one time, reaching very distinct segments and, basically not diluting your demand, right? The argument when we have variable prices is that somebody who was willing to pay more ends up, buying down and paying less. But because of the issues associated with the uncertainty with the opaques, they really form a natural segmentation of customers. Right? And then my main focus has been on helping hotels use these mechanisms more efficiently. And so historically, as a general manager or revenue manager, we have very finite data on the market. We basically have sales transactions, and we try and use those sales transactions to infer demand. But these opaque sites provide the property with, on Priceline standpoint, all the bids that are coming through their mechanism. And on the Hotwire side, all the looks that are coming through their mechanism. So you really have a really good idea of what demand is, and then you can sort of more, scientifically set prices into those markets to make sure that they yield higher, right? And so these are, both mechanisms are mechanisms that are going to drop your ADR, right? You're going to price lower, so they're going to decrease your ADR, but because it's incremental demand, it's going to improve your RevPAR, right? So if you focus on RevPAR, these are exceptional mechanisms to use. Keep in mind that your ADR is going to drop as you lower prices in these segments.
So let me ask you the question, what is it specifically that hotels can do to optimize the value of their presence on sites like Priceline or Hotwire?
It basically is, I would say start to use them as soon as possible, and, use them initially very conservatively, right? So if you think that the rates are too low, then just give them higher rates with restricted inventory, right? So you can set how many rooms they have for what arrival day. What I typically recommend is if you're interested in these channels, then only use them day of, right? So don't start using these opaque channels, 21 days prior to arrival. Basically use them day of or day before. Don't give them ridiculously low rates, but give them decent rates and restrict that inventory. And you'll pretty quickly see what happens, that you're going to get some transactions through these mechanisms, and you'll see this sort of bottom line RevPAR effects pretty quickly, right? So again, use them conservatively, use them when you need them on day of, and don't price too aggressively, and sort of see what happens, right? There's some pretty easy ways to sort of step in gingerly, walk before you run kind of thing on a lot of these opaques.
Right, so being conservative at the front end and finding your way to that magic number without crossing over that threshold.
Right. Now, again, they don't work for everybody. Basically, these mechanisms require a fair level of competition in the market, right? So if my example area was a 4-star in Times Square, which works quite well because there's a lot of properties at that level in Times Square. But as you get to smaller markets, where there's fewer properties at any given star level, then it's really not all that opaque. Or if you're providing inventory to these opaques, 30 days in advance, odds are very few properties are probably providing inventory to those opaques that far in advance. So it's not very opaque, as there does exist a series of channels like, bidding for travel, these sort of blogs or data sources where consumers post their successes on these opaque sites, right? So what you do find is that opaque site users are hardcore loyal to that mechanism, right? And they would, just like I sort of preach the use of opaques to properties, there's a body of consumers who preach the use of opaques to each other. I just got this great deal, right? And so, like a fellow Canadian, William Shatner, it's a time for a deal.
Yeah, he certainly has helped increase the level of awareness of Priceline, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
So it sounds like these opaque sites are really attractive to a very specific segment of the travel shopping public. And that particular segment is one that has almost become brand loyal to the opaque site versus the hotels
Right.
when they shop for hotels online.
Right. And the reality is the only way that you would have sold a room to that individual is if you had been the cheapest, 4-star in your market. Right. So
On a regular, consistent basis.
on a regular, consistent basis. Right. And so if you look at it that way, that's the only possibility you ever would have sold to that person. And odds are that if they were, spending that same travel budget on retail, they'd be 1 or 2 stars below you. So it allows you to sort of price into a lower comp set, if you want to say it that way, to this very, sort of mechanism loyal versus brand loyal consumer.
Right. So it's interesting. It's almost like this is the alternative method to be able to sell to this particular segment of the population at a more profitable and higher price than you could without the opaque sites out there.
Right.
Chris, thank you very much for joining us today on VTV. We enjoy your insights and the knowledge that you provide to our audience, and we look forward to having you the next time.
Okay. Thanks, John.
To all the viewers out there, be sure to post your comments on this episode of VTV and subscribe to our feed to receive more valuable insights from industry experts.